$128 billion. That is not the cost of a war. That is not the cost of a space program. That is the cost of a train. A single train line in one American state. California promised its citizens a high-speed rail system that would connect Los Angeles to San Francisco in 2 hours and 40 minutes. Tickets would cost $50. The first train would run by 2020. That was 2008. Today, it is 2025. Not one passenger has ever boarded this train. Not 1 mile of track carries revenue service. The tunnels are unfinished, the stations are unbuilt, and the budget, once $33 billion, has exploded to $128 billion. Some engineers say the final number could reach $200 billion. The construction sites sit half-finished across California's Central Valley. The cranes have stopped moving in some sections. The contractors are fighting in court. So here is the question every California taxpayer deserves an answer to. How does the richest state in the richest country on Earth spend $128 billion and build almost nothing? To understand what went wrong, you have to understand what was promised. In 2008, California is booming. Silicon Valley is minting billionaires. Real estate prices are climbing. The state has the world's 5th largest economy, and its roads are choking. The drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco takes 6 hours on a good day. The airports are overcrowded. Airlines charge whatever they want because there is no alternative. California needs a solution. The California High-Speed Rail Authority presents one. A bullet train. 800 miles of track connecting the state's major cities. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego. Speeds of 220 miles per hour. Journey time under 3 hours. The cost estimate is $33 billion. Completion date, 2020. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger endorses it. President Barack Obama calls it the future of American transportation. The federal government promises $3.5 billion in stimulus funding. In November 2008, California voters approve Proposition 1A. $9.95 billion in state bonds authorized. The margin is comfortable. The public believes in it. The Rail Authority appoints Roelof van Ark as its first CEO. He promises transparency. He promises efficiency. He promises California a world-class system. Ground is broken in Fresno in January 2015. Governor Jerry Brown stands at the podium. He calls it a transformational moment. The crowd cheers. The concrete is about to be poured. The future is about to begin. Nobody mentions what the geological surveys have quietly found beneath the Central Valley floor. The construction begins with genuine ambition. The first segment runs through California's Central Valley, the flat agricultural heartland between Fresno and Bakersfield. It is chosen deliberately. Flat land, fewer obstacles, a place to build momentum and prove the project works. At peak activity, over 2,000 workers are on site across multiple construction zones. Concrete crews work 6 days a week. Steel reinforcement bars arrive by the truckload. Earth-moving equipment reshapes the valley floor in sections stretching miles. The viaducts take shape first. Elevated rail sections rising 30 feet above the valley floor, designed to carry trains at 220 miles per hour without a single grade crossing. Each concrete pillar is poured individually, inspected, certified. The engineering precision is real. Tunneling equipment is ordered for the mountain crossings. The Tehachapi Mountains separate the Central Valley from Los Angeles. The tunnel through them will run 15 miles. It is one of the most complex boring operations ever planned on American soil. Environmental teams complete hundreds of assessments. Legal teams file thousands of documents. The Rail Authority publishes quarterly progress reports. Everything looks systematic. Everything looks managed. By 2017, aerial photographs show real progress. Dozens of viaduct columns rising from the valley floor. Grading completed across 119 miles. The Rail Authority releases confident statements. The project is on track. But in the soil reports, Buried in appendices that almost nobody reads, a word appears quietly. Contamination. The Central Valley farmland, irrigated for a century with water carrying dissolved minerals, contains pockets of soil so chemically altered that standard construction methods cannot safely use it. The extent of the contamination is not yet known. The Rail Authority does not highlight it in its public statements. The word sits in the reports. Waiting. The contamination problem surfaces fully in 2017. Dozens of construction sites across the Central Valley hit soil that cannot support standard foundation work. The ground contains naturally occurring chromium-6, a toxic compound that requires special handling, special disposal, and special legal compliance. Removing it costs 4 times more than standard excavation. Every affected site requires an individual remediation plan approved by state environmental regulators. The Rail Authority, led at this point by Jeff Morales, does not disclose the full scope publicly. Construction slows, costs rise. The first budget revision adds $2.8 billion to the project total. The second problem is legal, and it comes from the farmers. California's Central Valley is private agricultural land. The Rail Authority must acquire thousands of parcels from individual landowners. Many sell voluntarily, many do not. By 2018, over 400 active lawsuits challenge land acquisition decisions. Courts in Fresno, Kings, and Tulare counties are overwhelmed with eminent domain cases. Some farmers demand 10 times the Rail Authority's offered price. Construction cannot begin on contested parcels. The legal backlog freezes 23 miles of planned track. The third problem is financial, and it is the most dangerous. The original $33 billion budget assumed federal funding would cover roughly 1/3 of total costs. In 2017, the Trump administration signals it will challenge California's use of federal rail funds. The $929 million federal grant awarded under Obama is frozen, pending review. Then, a second tranche, $2.5 billion, is threatened with cancellation entirely. The Rail Authority scrambles. Without federal money, the state bond funds alone cannot complete the system. The finance model that Proposition 1A voters approved in 2008 is no longer viable. 3 problems. Toxic soil, legal gridlock, federal funding collapse. None were in the 2008 voter pamphlet. By 2018, the budget revisions stop being embarrassing and start being catastrophic. The Rail Authority publishes its 2018 business plan. The new cost estimate, $77.3 billion, more than double the 2008 figure. The completion date, pushed to 2033. California's Legislative Analyst Office, the state's independent budget watchdog, publishes a devastating review. It finds the Rail Authority's cost estimates are based on optimistic assumptions. Real costs, the report states, could reach $98 billion. The legislature is not pleased. Governor Gavin Newsom, newly elected in 2019, makes a dramatic announcement. California will not build the full system. It will focus only on the Central Valley segment, a 171-mile stretch connecting Merced to Bakersfield. 2 cities almost nobody outside California has heard of. Neither is Los Angeles. Neither is San Francisco. The promise voters approved in 2008 is effectively abandoned. No official cancellation, just a quiet redirection. The moment the project could have been saved was 2012. At that point, a full independent cost audit, before major construction contracts were signed, could have reset the budget and renegotiated federal terms. Governor Jerry Brown, who championed the project as his legacy, chose political momentum over financial reality. He signed the construction contracts. The money started flowing. By 2022, the budget reaches $113 billion. By 2023, $128 billion. Each revision comes with a new promised completion date. Each date passes. The Central Valley farmers are still in court. The tunnels have not been started. The Los Angeles connection remains a concept drawing. In February 2024, the crisis becomes impossible to ignore. The Federal Railroad Administration publishes an oversight report finding that the California High-Speed Rail Authority has failed to meet 31 of 44 project milestones. Construction progress in the Central Valley is running 3 years behind the authority's own revised schedule. Cost controls are described as inadequate. Management oversight is described as insufficient. The report triggers a congressional hearing. Republican lawmakers demand the return of federal funds. Democratic representatives from California defend the project but cannot explain the milestone failures. Rail Authority CEO Brian Kelly testifies. He promises reforms. He promises new oversight structures. He cannot explain why 71% of milestones have been missed. The Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Transportation opens a separate investigation into whether federal funds have been properly accounted for. The investigation is ongoing. In Sacramento, the State Senate Transportation Committee holds its own hearings. Former Rail Authority executives testify. Internal emails released under public records requests show that senior staff knew cost estimates were unrealistic as early as 2013 and did not disclose this to the legislature or the public. California's most prominent newspaper, the Los Angeles Times, publishes an editorial calling the project a catastrophic mismanagement of public funds. The San Francisco Chronicle follows. Both demand a full independent audit. The project is not cancelled, but it feels finished. California does not cancel the train. It cannot. Cancellation would trigger repayment of $3.5 billion in federal grants already spent. State bond covenants require continued construction or face legal challenge from bondholders. Stopping is almost as expensive as continuing. So, the Rail Authority restructures. Again, a new oversight board is appointed in 2024. Independent monitors are embedded in construction management. A new contractor, Dragados, takes over sections where previous contractors have fallen behind. Progress reports become more frequent, more detailed, more carefully worded. In the Central Valley, construction continues. By early 2025, approximately 119 miles of graded roadbed exists. Some viaduct sections are complete. Photographs show real infrastructure, concrete, steel, actual progress. This is the false recovery. Because 119 miles of roadbed between Merced and Bakersfield is not a high-speed rail system. It connects nowhere to nowhere. It cannot carry a single passenger without the mountain tunnels, which have not been started. It cannot reach Los Angeles without 300 more miles of track through terrain that has not been acquired, designed, or funded. The tunnels alone, through the Tehachapi and San Gabriel Mountains, are now estimated to cost $30 billion, more than the entire original project budget. Governor Newsom has stopped mentioning a completion date in public statements. The Central Valley farmers are still in court. The federal investigation is still open. The budget is still climbing. Today, the trains are not running. The Central Valley construction sites are active, but building toward a destination that has no arrival date. The viaducts stand in the middle of farmland, leading nowhere passengers can board. $128 billion has been authorized. Roughly $12 billion has been spent. The rest is committed, borrowed, or promised, against a project whose final cost no independent analyst will estimate below $150 billion. The voters who approved $9.95 billion in 2008 did not approve $128 billion. They were never asked. The farmers who lost their land were told it was for a train their grandchildren would ride. Their grandchildren are now teenagers. The train still does not exist. At least 3 rail authority CEOs have resigned or been replaced. Dozens of senior staff have left. Contractors have sued and been sued. Hundreds of millions in legal fees have been paid from the same bond funds voters approved for construction. Somewhere in California's Central Valley tonight, a concrete viaduct stands in the dark, built at enormous cost, going nowhere, waiting for a train that has no schedule. If a government spends $128 billion of its citizens' money and cannot tell them when or whether the thing they paid for will ever be finished, what exactly were they paying for?